Hello, people. Welcome back to the MUFC MPB YouTube channel. I know I normally only do one show a week, which I have already done this week with Mr. Ben Jacobs. There was some brilliant information in that video, so please be sure to check that out. But today, I think it's only right to jump on and make another YouTube video for you guys, considering all the news that's going on at the moment. There's links with Rashford leaving the club. There's reports that Anthony may be leaving the club on a loan deal, and also a double centre-back sweep in the summer, which could potentially, anyway, really excite Manchester United fans going into the summer transfer window, which almost feels like a really, really defiant one in Manchester United's future, ultimately, because it's going to be Ineos's and Sir Jim Ratcliffe's first summer in charge of Manchester United, or at least the footballing operation side of things anyway. But before we get into everything today, please be sure to like and subscribe. Follow the YouTube channel in terms of subscribing to it, as well as following MUFC MPB on Twitter. We're across pretty much everything there is to be when it comes to Manchester United, and it really helps the page grow and ultimately leads to us getting on some bigger and better guests than we already have. And don't get me wrong, the guests that we've already had on have been absolutely brilliant. They've given us a lot of information, and one of the individuals, Pete Hall, who was on recently, I think it was only a couple of weeks ago, has also been reporting quite a lot of Manchester United news. So I think it would be only right to get into things straight away. Now, one of the big names at Manchester United, arguably probably the biggest name at Manchester United in terms of the last 5 or 6 years, if you exclude someone like Cristiano Ronaldo, would be Marcus Rashford. This guy is ultimately Manchester United's star boy, if you like. He's the Manc born and bred individual, but things this season, despite having an absolutely brilliant season last season, it was 30 goals in all competitions. This season, it hasn't quite worked out for probably a various number of reasons, off the pitch. Incidences haven't helped the cause whatsoever. And, I think it was just yesterday, David McDonnell of the Mirror has been reporting that PSG are preparing a £75 million bid for the Manchester United winger. And now, this isn't the first time that PSG have expressed their interest in Marcus Rashford. PSG, I'm being told, are huge admirers of Marcus Rashford and see him as a potential replacement as part of the new dawn and the new era of PSG past Kylian Mbappe. But I have also been told that Manchester United categorically at this stage have no interest in selling Rashford, and the feeling is reciprocated from the other side. Rashford has no intention of leaving Manchester United at this moment in time either. And I've also been told that PSG's main priority is Victor Osimhen. That is the number one target for them. And I've almost been told in a roundabout way anyway that they're not going to stop at any length to get Victor Osimhen. So we don't know how long that's going to go on for. And I think Marcus Rashford is just one of the names on quite a large list for PSG in terms of building that new era and that new project post Kylian Mbappe, who is, of course, Real Madrid bound. Now, Marcus Rashford is a very interesting scenario. On paper, he's got all of the attributes that you need to be a world-class star. His burst of pace, his directness, his always his willingness to really go forward anyway has been something that's been of huge admiration, not just for Manchester United fans, but clearly also for teams across Europe. But of course, as we know, this season hasn't gone in the way that anyone wanted to when it comes to Marcus Rashford. It's been a very disappointing season, but ultimately, Marcus Rashford has made it clear, and I've been told numerous times over the last couple of years that Rashford sees himself as a one-club man. He would absolutely love it to be a scenario where he stays at Manchester United for the remainder of his career, or at the very minimum, a large part of his career. And although he's been at Manchester United for all of his life thus far, he's still not really at the prime age, if you like. I think normally, on average, anyway, stereotypically, a player would reach that level at about 27, 28. And now with all the technology at the moment, it's probably even later than that. So I don't really see this one as a big one to follow in terms of Rashford really being likely to leave Manchester United, unless, of course, a ridiculous bid comes in. And I think it would be foolish of any club not to, at least at the very minimum, consider that ridiculous bid, wherever it may be coming from. But yeah, ultimately, I don't think Marcus Rashford will be leaving. I don't think he is a player that whoever the manager is next season will look as someone who's going to, right, that's it, we'll get him out. Because, as we've seen before with Marcus Rashford, when the new manager comes in, whoever that is, they've always liked the idea of putting Rashford into a team and really, getting the best out of him, because when he is fit and firing, when he is playing at his very, very best, he is one of the best players in the Premier League. And it's just a shame that we don't see that on a consistent basis. Otherwise, we wouldn't really be sitting here talking about PSG links. Do you know what I mean? So it's going to be an interesting one again to keep your eye on Max Rashford. But realistically, I don't think he's going to be the one who's going to really steal the headlines when it comes to Manchester United incomings or outgoings anyway. And one winger, if you like, staying on the topic of wingers, who has also been hitting the headlines at the moment, is Antony. There's been reports coming from Brazil that Flamengo are considering submitting a 1-year loan proposal for Manchester United for Antony. And now I do think this one's going to be a very hard and difficult situation for Manchester United, because it's going to be hard to sell someone like Antony on loan, because ultimately the wages will be a factor, and how much of it will Manchester United be willing to pay. And ultimately, if it was going to be completely honest, I think Manchester United would probably get rid of Antony. But because of the price tag they paid for him, as I say, because of the wages, it's going to be a very difficult thing to sort of get off the books, if you like. So a loan deal is most likely going to be the only option. I think whether or not it's going to be to Brazil, I'm unsure. He's still a player who's very young. He still believes he can operate at the highest level. And is Brazil going to offer him that? I'm not entirely sure. It may just be a confidence thing, getting back to some familiar surroundings and really allow him to focus on his game. But again, this is going to be a very difficult thing to do. It's been a torrid time for Antony. I don't think it takes a genius to work that out. I said live on TalkSport 2 that summer that he signed, that he was the marquee signing for Manchester United when he did come in. One of the biggest dark clouds over Erik ten Hag has been the signing of Antony for numerous reasons, really. It's also not just a consideration of the price tag, it's also the performances on the pitch, the lack of influence, if you like, going forward. Defensively, he's been quite impressive, but realistically, you don't sign a right winger for the best part of 100 million because he's good at tracking back. If he was doing his job properly, he wouldn't need to track back, because he's being so effective on the other side of the pitch, where ultimately Manchester United bought him for. But I think the Flamingo links have been made stronger, obviously, through the Andres Pereira route. He did a very similar thing to get his career back on track. But I think ultimately the thing with Antony is it's going to be very, very dependent on who the manager is next season. If Erik ten Hag is still in the job by then, he does have more of a chance to at least stay at Manchester United and fight for his place in that way. But a new manager coming in, they won't, whoever it may be or whoever it could be, won't hesitate to get rid of a player, irrespective of how much it was, because that manager didn't sign that player. It's not going to look bad or reflect negatively on the new manager coming in, because at the end of the day, he wasn't the one who signed the player who hasn't quite worked out. So again, it's going to be very dependent on the decisions Ineos make at the board level. I'm being told that, and on numerous occasions, I think Ben Jacobs also said it as well, in terms of on this very channel, that Ineos's main priority is to build from the top down. It's not going to be a situation where they're going to sign loads of players and then worry about the people at the board level, the CEO and the footballing directors and all that kind of stuff. They want to get them in place before they start signing football players. And, they've got a bit of a window at the moment before the summer transfer window to get everyone like that in. So hopefully, anyway, they can certainly do that, and Manchester United can start signing some players that bloody play well. Let's be perfectly honest. And as I say, Antony's future will ultimately be decided on whether or not Erik ten Hag will be in the job. And I think another player, another winger who fits into that bill in terms of whether or not they'll be having a future at Manchester United is Jadon Sancho. Now, I'm being told that Jadon Sancho is undecided in what he wants to do with his future. Confidence and comfort are very big factors for him, which he ultimately gets at Borussia Dortmund. He scored in the Champions League last night to take them through to the quarterfinals, while Manchester United are rotting and just only looking forward realistically to the FA Cup and hopefully, in an unlikely case, get a top 4 finish. But as I say, I've been told that Jadon Sancho is very undecided in what he wants to do at the moment. On one hand, he would love to go back to Borussia Dortmund and really get his career back on track, as he's been trying to do in this loan spell. But then also the door at Manchester United is being open still, from his perspective anyway, because he's waiting out to see if Erik ten Hag is going to be the manager or not. Let's just make one thing clear. If Erik ten Hag is the manager next season, there is absolutely no chance Jadon Sancho plays for Manchester United again. However, if there's another manager that comes in that sees Jadon Sancho come back into the training fold, comes back to Manchester United, comes back to Carrington, he will at the very minimum get another chance to try and redeem his Manchester United career. So this is going to be something again that relies heavily, and it will depend ultimately on whether or not Eric Ten Hag's going to be in the job. And the mood music that we're hearing at the moment is it is likely, although he does have his opportunity to prove himself from now until the end of the season. When you start to hear certain names and you understand the relationships of these said names with Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos, it doesn't really seem like Eric Ten Hag or the Eric Ten Hag in supporters, if you like, are going to be filled with much confidence. But we'll move on now anyway to the summer signings. You know, there's been a lot of talk at the moment in terms of who's going to be coming in because really and truthfully, Manchester United need a hell of a lot of signings, and that's probably not an understatement to say the least. So, you know, we'll get into obviously I mentioned Pete All. He's an individual who's a very good football journalist at that. He's very much across all the Manchester United stuff, and he's also joined me on this very YouTube channel. So if you do want to hear any of his stuff, be sure to check him out. He's absolutely brilliant, and I'm sure we'll get him on again. He has been reporting that, you know, there's going to be some big movements in the centre half position. This is now Manchester United's number one transfer priority, and ultimately, this has been something that's shifted. Pete Hall said on the video that we did together that, you know, the striker role was the main priority, but I think now they've started to understand the dynamics with the centre half partnerships, or the lack of, shall we say, with Johnny Evans being arguably Manchester United's best and most reliable defender this season in terms of being available, in terms of being consistent. You know, he hasn't exactly been setting the world alight, but he's been bringing a very minimum sort of standard, which has probably been about a 6.5, 7 out of 10, which isn't exactly, as I say, something that we're going to be talking about him getting a bloody Ballon d'Or for it. But at the end of the day, he's been someone that Man United could rely on, which is crazy for me to say in the year of 2024. But we'll get on to obviously, you know, the centre halves that have been linked with Manchester United. You know, Burma of Juventus, despite Chelsea and Tottenham considering a move for him, a 43 million pound release clause could really be some very good business. You know, 26-year-old. I think he's got 27 appearances this season. He's played even a couple of times for his national side, Brazil. This could be someone again who could be a brilliant signing, but realistically, Manchester United have to be careful because they want to make sure that they don't waste the money that they have in previous years under the Glazer ownership. And I know, of course, the Glazers are still in, but in terms of the footballing operations, it's now Ineos, of course. And Ineos won't want to make the same mistakes that the Glazers or Manchester United have done in the past however many years. So again, you know, the interesting thing really here is the fact that, you know, Jared Brentwaite is also a name that's being linked with Manchester United. You know, he has got a very high ceiling. He's very comfortable on the ball. He's been at Everton now, and he's been really impressing ultimately. You know, this is a young individual with a big future ahead of him. And now initially you'd think to yourself, okay, well, it'd be one or the other because Manchester United, you know, are going to be struggling for money and struggling for cash for all sorts of reasons. But Peter Hall in the iPaper Sport, you know, he has been saying that do not rule out a possibility of both of these signings being made. But ultimately, this needs to be a case of sales that need to be made as well to raise up some money. And we don't know where that's going to come from. But realistically, Manchester United need a lot of surgery at this moment in time. And if they don't get the right players in again, it will be a horrible start to the new Ineos structure. But I think, look, Manchester United do need some new centre halves. I think this as a new centre half partnership, or potentially bringing these two in and then adding Martinez into the fold as well. I think that would be a brilliant rotational option for Manchester United to have them three individuals being available for Manchester United. But you know, again, this is going to be something that I just want to highlight that Manchester United are going to be linked with an awful lot of players now, especially the fact that that everyone across Europe will know that Man United are going to be under this big rebuild from top to bottom. Players ultimately and agents will want to link themselves to Manchester United, whether or not that's because it's genuine or because they're trying to get a raise at their current club or trying to push the club that they really want to go to make a move because the mighty Manchester United are in for them. It's always going to happen with Manchester United, whether we like it or not. And that's I can't even speak. I just went it's like a bit of a DJ noise there. I don't know what happened. Anyway, one name that I really did want to talk about, you know, I mentioned a little bit earlier in terms of obviously, you know, raising some funds for Manchester United. One individual that could raise a significant amount of money, and it would of course be 100% profit because he's an academy graduate, is a certain Mason Greenwood. Now, of course, the links with Mason Greenwood to Barcelona, that they've been coming through, and also recently, I think either today or last night, there was reports suggesting that the links have been called off from Barcelona because they're wary of the price tag and also the backlash that they could potentially receive off their fan base. Now, this is a massive, massive thing for Manchester United, and ultimately more so for Mason Greenwood, because at the end of the day, Manchester United and Ineos are going to have so many things to deal with on and off the pitch. As we've saw already, it's going to be a very difficult thing to get all of the individuals they want in place, and that's just at a board level. And then you add the added layer of Mason Greenwood, whatever side you're on, whether you want to bring him back to Manchester United, whether you never want to even see him play football again, from a footballing perspective, he's going to attract certain clubs, big clubs, because of his footballing ability. But then would football clubs want to sign up for such a big PR incident from a perspective of a PR sort of angle? It's such a big story that's going to bring headlines. And when you're talking about big clubs, and I'm talking, the upper echelons of world football here, the likes of Manchester United, the likes of Barcelona, these clubs are not just football teams. These have a global brand and an image to protect. So ultimately, I'd expect a sale of Mason Greenwood, and I'd expect a sale abroad, because at the end of the day, Manchester United have got so many things that they need to deal with and address. I'm just unsure whether they would want to welcome another problem in Mason Greenwood, irrespective of how impactful and how impressive he's been on the pitch recently for Getafe. And as I say, Ratcliffe and Ineos have got a lot of things that they need to deal with right now. It's one of them situations where, as I say, they've got to worry about pretty much everything, even so much so that the stadium is now going to be such a big priority for them to address. But I've been told that Ratcliffe and Ineos are very clear that their main focus, as I say, is being able to get individuals on the board level, whether that be Dan Ashworth, whether that be Dougie Freeman, whoever it may be. They want to get them in place before they start making any big surgical differences to the Manchester United team. So, as I say, I've been told about Ratcliffe and Ineos. They see this and they understand this is a 3 summer project. So 3 summers and 2 winters, and then they will see where they're at in terms of really getting Manchester United in a place that they want the club to be in. So it's going to be a very fascinating few weeks, not just at board level, but also to see all of the links of Manchester United. But to wrap up, I think I'll just give my personal opinion, really. Look, Marcus Rashford, he's an absolutely brilliant player. But ultimately, if a big offer comes in for Manchester United, at the very minimum, Manchester United have to consider this. They want to start this new era. They want to start the new dawn of Manchester United. But if this offer comes in excess of 100 million from PSG, and let's be honest, they're going to have the money to do that, then Man United do need to have a bit of a consideration. But my personal opinion, I don't think Rashford's going anywhere. He hasn't got any intention of leaving the club, and the club don't want to lose him either. Anthony, again, loan deal would probably be the most likely outcome if, of course, Eric Ten Hag isn't in the job anymore. I think if he is, then Anthony does have a chance of coming back. There will be several names being linked with Manchester United coming into the club and also leaving the club. It's going to be a very, very crazy time to be a Manchester United fan, to be a broadcaster, as I am myself, within this space, being a Manchester United supporter. It's going to be something almost of unknown territory, really, because we don't quite know the direction Ineos are going to go into in terms of really bringing in the type of player or the profile of player that they want to bring in. So it's going to be something that we all need to keep our eyes on. We all need to keep following and keep up to date with. And the best way to do that, my friends, is to follow MUFC MPB on YouTube, on Twitter. Be sure to hit the like, subscribe button. My name's Anil Kandola. Thank you so much for watching today's video. As I say, be sure to follow myself. Follow MUFC MPB on pretty much any platform you can get your hands on when it comes to this channel, because they're brilliant. They're across absolutely everything. And as I say, we will always try and bring you the information to the Manchester United fans that we hear from the sources, from other platforms and all that kind of stuff. So as I say, please be sure to like, subscribe, do all of that business, and I will catch you very soon on the MUFC MPB YouTube channel.